It's Ocean Drive in Coney Island.
Ocean Drive is the only luxury rentals in New York with a spectacular ocean view. You wake up in the morning and breathe that ocean air. I'll certify that you're going to live 10 years longer. When I became successful, I wanted to live on the ocean. If you have worked hard, you deserve an apartment on Ocean Drive too. Go to oceandrivenyc.com and reward yourself.
If you're a policeman, fireman, doctor, nurse, or teacher, you qualify for a limited time offer at oceandrivenyc.com. Terms and conditions apply.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So I've been thinking about Kevin McCarthy basically all night long. I don't ever want to be in this position again, thinking about Kevin McCarthy. But I figured a few things out. I really had to study this. I really had to go deep. I had to study him because look, I'm Congress, right? You expect them to do the work. There are some guys I like down there. Never been a big fan of Kevin McCarthy, but at one point he started saying the right things but he's definitely a career politician, and I basically figured it out. Number one, sorry to say, well, that speech last night that he gave after he got kicked out, right? Very beautiful, very nice. But then there's this. What did Vince Lombardi say? Show me a good loser, and I will show you a loser. This guy was weak. This guy wasn't smart enough. This guy, I don't believe, has real core convictions. I think he likes politics. I think he likes being an important person. And I think it's a great big game. And the country is going to hell. It's disintegrating all around us. Yet he wants to play a game that they invented in 1876. Right? Well, you have to compromise, Greg. You have to compromise. Really? Do we compromise with people who want to steal our children? Who want to steal children? Do we compromise with people who don't believe we should have a border? Do we compromise with people who believe it's totally fine to lose a war and to fund another war that no end in sight? I don't know. Whatever. I guess you got to have some compromise, but the compromise word, it's not a good word all the time. Yeah. Oh, we're going to reach a compromise. That sounds great. But then you're compromised, right? Somebody who's compromised, you got something on them. They did something bad. All right. Number one, he comes out last night. He's just lost the biggest job he'll ever have because he's finished in politics. He's been in politics since the age of 20. And he told a couple of good stories. Now, Matt Gaetz is talented, and I like him. I don't know him well. Sometimes I think he goes a little bit too far, but you know what? I think he's in it for the right reasons. I do. Sometimes he's annoying. A lot of these guys are annoying. And that little coalition, only 8 people. This rule is not like brand new. It wasn't invented by the Freedom Caucus. It's been around for 200 years that you could get rid of a speaker like that. You know who put it aside for a while? Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi. I don't want to dwell too much on the congressional procedures and all that stuff. It is important. I know some people who I like, some conservatives, are really devastated and upset right now, and this has put us back. You know what? A lot of these guys were devastated and upset that it took 15 rounds of voting back in January. Does anybody really talk about that? They're talking about it now, but does it really matter? This will be forgotten very soon. I know that President Trump wasn't passionate about Kevin McCarthy. And back when his name emerged as the guy who was going to be speaker, I'm like, hey, isn't this the guy who condemned President Trump after January 6th? Isn't this the guy who on the phone with Liz Cheney said that Trump is impeachable and should resign? He had 2 weeks in office. He said he should resign. That's Kevin McCarthy. Then he gets the job. And what did he say about Ashley Babbitt? He said that Officer Byrd was doing his job. No, he wasn't. Murdering is not part of his job. Murdering unarmed women is not part of his job. The January 6 tapes, I could have done a lot with them, and instead he gave them to Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson got fired for playing them. All right, what about the rest of us? You know, why not? I think he was more in love with politics than the country. And I think I can actually prove it. Let's see here. Cut 21, please. This is right after he finds out he's the ex-speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. Cut 21.
President Abraham Lincoln once said, "I'm an optimist because I don't see any other way." If you ever come to my office, you'll see the portraits of Lincoln and Reagan. And I firmly believe if Reagan gave us advice, he would say, if you believe your principles bring people greater freedom, you should be happy about it. I've always been excited that I've been a happy conservative.
His demeanor is strange in that it's no different from last week and the week before. He is this, you should be red in the face and fired up. And he should have taken to the floor to defend himself. And he didn't. He just took it. Like we take on our side all kinds of things that are completely outrageous. He just took it. Cut 22. Please.
My journey to this office was something people wouldn't understand. I grew up in a town of Bakersfield, California, the son of a firefighter, the grandson of immigrants. Parents worked hard, the youngest in my family. Didn't have great wealth, and got out of high school, I didn't have great grades.
Hey, stop for a second. Stop. This is not an interesting or unique story. Some campaign consultant says, tell the story. Everybody in America can tell this story. It's good. It's a beautiful story, but at the same time, he thinks it's special. He thinks this makes him so unique. It doesn't, buddy. Keep going with this. There's something coming up.
Flipped cars to try to pay my way through it. Went to visit some buddies away in college for a weekend. Stopped at the grocery store to cash a check, and I won the lottery. One of the first in California. It was before Biden economics. It was only 5,000, but it went much further back then. Took my folks to dinner. Put the majority of the rest of the money into the stock market and did pretty well.
Hey, stop for a second. I listened to this like 6 times. I can't tell what he's talking about. Did he cash a check and felt like he won the lottery, or did he literally win the lottery? Did he literally win $5,000 and he puts it in the... I don't know. But, that doesn't happen to many people. Keep going.
Next semester, I took a break from school. I went to buy a franchise, but no one said they would sell me one. I was only 20 years old. But I learned then never to give up. So I opened my own business, selling sandwiches. 3 things I learned. First to work, last to leave, last to be paid. I wanted to finish my college degree. At that time, no one in my family had finished a 4-year degree. I did pretty well. I now had enough money that I could pay my way through school as long as I went to Cal State. So I sold my business, going to school. I opened up the local paper and said, be a summer intern in Washington, D.C. with my local congressman. I did not know this man, but I thought he'd be lucky to have me, so I applied. And you know what he did? He turned me down. But you want to know the end of the story? I got elected to a seat I couldn't get an internship for. I ended up being the 55th Speaker of the House. One of the greatest honors. I loved every minute.
This is a very revealing story, actually. It really is. So, a couple of things. The only stuff he knows about being a businessman, he learned when he was 20 years old. He gets out of business really quick. And then he's applying for internships all over the place. Because he actually did get an internship. It wasn't in Washington, D.C., but it was in Sacramento. Okay, he worked for can't work for a congressman, so he worked for a state assemblyman. All right, so, and then he keeps quoting that it would be like me talking about the lemonade stand I ran for 6 weeks, actually 6 minutes really, when I was 11. First in, last out, last to be paid, whatever. Making sandwiches. That's a very important thing to do, actually. It's very important. But he says he rises from that to become the speaker. And now he's so much better, so much more powerful. And in one way, yeah, you look at it, these guys get treated like potentates. with the silly offices that go on and on and on. And it's like a palace in the Capitol. The office of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the anteroom of the Speaker, the hideaway office of the Speaker, Speaker 1, Speaker 2, all these things they get. Keep going, please, with the next one. Cut 23.
You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican Speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner.
That's not true either. Now he's feeling sorry for himself. I'm the only one. There are a lot of people, actually, who don't like that rule. There are people who are fighting against it. Republicans, the ones that spoke out in your defense yesterday. A lot of them. And by the way, you didn't nearly acknowledge them enough. Look, just keep this in mind. Nancy Pelosi, that crazy old bat, right? You want to talk about what she got done compared to what this guy got done? It's no contest. Pelosi impeached Trump twice. She managed to remove Republicans from committees. She did not allow the GOP to pick representatives for the January 6th committee. She forced masks and metal detectors. McCarthy, as you will see in this thing, is weak and potentially kind of corrupt. Not corrupt as in he's pocketing money, but in that his agenda, his loyalties are elsewhere, actually. Hey, you know what happened? Did you ever see the radical climate change people take over his office? It happens like routinely. Routinely, they go in there and they take the office over. And they're issued a parking ticket and then they leave. And then they do it again the following week. What happened to our friend Big O Barnett? Remember him with his feet up on the Nancy's desk? That guy's going to federal prison for 5 years. 5 years. This Nancy doesn't screw around. And then it gets kind of funny. He thinks Nancy Pelosi let him down. Go to the next clip, please. What number are we up to? Keep going.
I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
Stop! As if it's up to you, pal. Like, you see, the power, the arrogance, you just got beat. You couldn't, and he didn't have the intellectual furniture to pull it off. Cut 25.
I wouldn't change a thing. I do believe, I got a new portrait in there, too, of Teddy Roosevelt. You all know the man in the arena. One of my favorite parts of it, who errs, who comes up short again and again, but there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, who knows the triumph of high achievement, and if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. I always like to take a risk.
Okay. Now it can be said. We love Teddy Roosevelt, but he was a bit of an egomaniac ham. Okay. You ever been out to Sagamore Hill? This guy thought very, very highly of himself. And politicians love the man in the arena little poem, little ditty that he came up with, Teddy Roosevelt. And it sounds great when you read it, but then you stop and think about it. Man in the arena, like man in the stadium, like the star, right? People like who? Kevin, who go in and, wow, take a chance. And you guys who are booing me and critiquing me, you guys are the losers. I'm the winner here. That's what man in the arena is actually about. And I don't like it. The man in the arena should be worried and working for the man who is making sandwiches in Bakersfield, right? You see, that's the important person in this equation. The person he was at 20 and the person he could have been if he stayed in the sandwich business. That's where the glamour is. That's where the glamour should be. Instead, they created this industry around themselves where they are the captains. They are the chieftains. And we kind of are supposed to watch in awe. Anyway, no offense, Teddy Roosevelt. I liked you a lot. Of course, you were one of the first police commissioners of I sat at his desk. But, yeah, a bit of an egomaniac and a ham. All right. How do you think you become president at 42 years old? All right. He was a young man in a hurry. And he had a great publicity team, but also a great brain. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Listen, a lot of good people can disagree about this stuff, all right? And there are people I deeply respect who are telling me I'm wrong about Kevin McCarthy, who are telling me I'm wrong about Matt Gaetz. I respect them, and they may have a point. I could be wrong. They could be right. But I'm just telling you, I knew that Kevin McCarthy wasn't up for this job, didn't have the heft, didn't have the band, just it wasn't good enough. A real smart guy I know named Mark Halperin has sources on Capitol Hill and in the White House like nobody in the world. Probably the best, like, straight news journalist in the world. Said publicly last January that given the restrictions, given the parameters of the job, given the situation, given the caucus, all that stuff, he predicted that Kevin McCarthy would not make it to Thanksgiving. And so this was, people saw this coming. And then again, I don't like it that Democrats are chuckling right now, and they have the upper hand, even though they're destroying this country and making America so vulnerable to our enemies, literally. And yet they have the upper hand right now politically. That sounds crazy. That seems crazy. I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out. I am going back to President Trump, who said that he doesn't really seem to mind that Kevin's gone. And I think this can be resuscitated. I think this can be rejuvenized. I think we can get the momentum back in Congress, but maybe not. And maybe there's only so much you can do. How much? Republicans are in charge of very little right now, right? We don't have the Senate. We don't have the White House. And when you get to the Congress includes two bodies, right? The Senate, we're not in charge there. And we are in charge barely of half the House of Representatives. That is 1/3. We're in charge of half of 1/3 of the government. That's not a lot. And everybody else pulling the strings. You probably almost by definition just can't. But then again, look at what Nancy pulled off. Look at what the hell Nancy was able to do. How did she do it and Kevin couldn't? Well, there's a fascinating story that he tells about Nancy Pelosi that I'm like, oh my gosh, Kevin, how could you? How could you have let this happen? You trusted Nancy Pelosi? Shame on Kevin McCarthy. Sorry. And I see that he's leaving with almost a skip in his step. Yeah, it's a big pain in the neck job. He's already mentioned the book he's going to write. These guys go on to multi-million-dollar deals. Multi. You can take the office with you, just like Paul Ryan did. His Twitter account. You know what Paul Ryan does for a living? He is the professional 54th Speaker of the House of Representatives. It's on his card. It's on his resume. It's on his Twitter. That's all. And it opens doors, and the money comes rolling in. And it's going to happen for Kevin as well. But this Pelosi thing is fascinating. I'll have it when we come back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At one point, a reporter asked Kevin McCarthy, when's the last time you talked to Joe Biden? And he's like, actually, I think I have the soundbite coming up, but he's like, you know what? I was thinking about that. I can't remember the last time I talked to him. Now, let's pretend you're the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, right? You got all that stuff. You got all those cars. You got all those aides. You've got a massive platform. You have all these people around you. You got your caucus, right? At some point, everything's different now. Everything's different. For him, it was just a job. It was a job that he wanted for a long time, a career politician. And he played by the old rules, the customs, the norms. Screw that. Screw it. Go down to that White House with all 200 members and lay down in front of the damn building. I don't know. Maybe not that, but something. something huge. We cannot do this for much longer. And the House of Representatives, I don't believe, has the authority. No, not the authority. They don't actually have the ability to fix the border, but they do have the ability probably to defund a bunch of stuff, which I thought McCarthy was never really a fan of, never pushing. To force them to do this. I mean, you can't do it through traditional legislation. I don't know. Guys I respect, hey, guys who know a lot more about this Congress stuff than I do, say I'm totally wrong, and there are a lot of other things going on here. And there are, like the ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz, but you know what? They may be investigating him just to stop him because they don't like him, but I don't know. I do know this. A career politician and the arrogance kicks in, you can't trust him anymore. You just can't trust him. And this is an arrogant moment. It really is. It's this Teddy Roosevelt thing, and the more I think about it, and the more I get, the angrier I get, because they've been pulling this Teddy Roosevelt Man in the Arena poem ever since Teddy Roosevelt. And this is supposed to, like, make us in quiet awe of them. Now, listen, he plays a little game here. He takes an excerpt. All right, can I hear that little excerpt again from Kevin McCarthy, the ex-speaker, who, by the way, again, he's going out like a little mouse. He's going out like a mouse. You fight. You gotta fight. You gotta get in there. And I don't think he wanted to risk. Look, he's too cool. He's like a California surfer boy. Keep going. Cut 25.
One of my favorite parts of it, who errs, who comes up short again and again, but there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, who knows the triumph of high achievement, and if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. I always like to take a risk.
Well, that's nice. But this is he leaves out the next line. And I got a problem with it. I got a problem with you, Teddy Roosevelt, posthumously. May you rest in peace and all that stuff. Thanks for the Panama Canal. But he leaves this part. Okay, what is this? Best way. At the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. And it goes on. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. The man in the arena, the man in the stadium, the man who runs for office, right? The man who throws his hat in the ring. Well, most of us, quite frankly, don't know victory or defeat. We don't want to stand for election. We want to feed our families. We want to house them. We want to send them to good schools, safe schools, right? We want to watch a little bit of TV. We want to worship. We don't want foreign agendas, transgender mess forced on us. We don't want any of that stuff. And then I want the government to leave me the hell alone. All right? I mean, not all of us are competitive. If you want to be competitive, most people join a softball league. That's fun, but it's victory or defeat. This is I think the word is vainglorious. It's a vainglorious ode to politicians, to career politicians. Let's see here. Who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. Hey, there's something to be said for these guys. We need them around. Usually they're egomaniac hams, but you need a certain portion of society to be egomaniac hams. A very small portion. Unfortunately, we got them all over the place. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You know, I'm looking out the window. Hey, we want a decent job. We want to do well at work. All right. We don't want to be hassled for our thoughts. We want to be left. I mean, you get it though? You see how that's like kind of condescending in the end? Do you see what I'm saying, Diego? No, not really. Because you know why you don't see it? Because this poem is supposed to be like, it's so ingrained. It's so like, oh, in the arena. Even my man, Richard Nixon, he wrote a book called In the Arena by Richard Nixon, like a semi-autobiography. And he was a bit of a egomaniac as well. He wanted to be this great savior. I love Richard Nixon. So many things I learned from him. Never met him, but I learned so much from him. But yeah, all these guys have a screw loose or two. And that's okay, to a point. Let me see here. All right, so daring greatly. Well, here's the part where you can tell he's not good at politics. Where's this thing where he starts talking about Nancy Pelosi? We have that one ready? All right. He's surprised that Nancy Pelosi wasn't straight with him. Go ahead.
I think you got a real institutional problem. Interesting, it was in this room after we had won the majority. I had become speaker last, and Nancy Pelosi came to me. She was speaker at the time on the way out. And I told her I was having issues with getting enough votes. And she said, what's the problem? I said, they want this one person can rule you out. She was the only speaker to have changed that rule. I had the power to call the vote on her, but I never would. I lost some votes because of it. And she said, just give it to him. I'll always back you up. I made the same offer to Boehner and same thing to Paul, because I believe in the institution. I think today was a political decision by the Democrats.
All right. Do you see what happened there? So this one vote thing that Nancy got away with, that did away with, so you couldn't just have one person initiate this whole thing that could remove a speaker. She got rid of it for her, but it came back for Kevin. So Nancy tells Kevin, don't worry, we won't let that happen. And the implication there is, I'm going to either step in procedurally or I'm going to vote for you. And from time to time, Democrats, they have been known to, and vice versa. But it's Nancy Pelosi, everybody. And you feel let down? You feel betrayed by Nancy Pelosi? Did you see what she's become? I saw it. I've never met the lady, I could tell. What's wrong with you? January 6th? How she exploited it? How she basically blew up the entire country for that goofy guy with the horns hat? And you and so many other Republicans ran scared, and you continue to run scared anytime January 6th comes up. And I'll tell you something else, ex-Speaker McCarthy. Lieutenant Byrd did not do his job that day when he murdered Ashley Babbitt. He did not. He committed a crime, and he's still walking around the Capitol with a gun. And no, Donald Trump should not have been impeached, and he should not have resigned. All right. So we know who Nancy Pelosi is, but somehow Kevin doesn't. So you got to go back to Donald Trump. He's always right. And I don't think Kevin may have been, like a lot of politicians, career politicians, they look down at Trump, they can't figure him out. They don't like him. They're basically jealous. But Donald Trump told a very, very profound story. And lots of people laughed at him when he tells this story. He tells it a lot. Remember this story. Too bad, Kevin. Too bad. This is a good one. All right. You ready? This is Donald Trump and the snake.
It's called The Snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. The border. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I have saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, heavens why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
Yeah! Think about it, Kevin. But unfortunately, it's too late. But the rest of us can learn from that vicious little snake. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. Enough about my thoughts on the whole speaker situation. What do you guys think of my thoughts on the whole speaker situation? Just kidding. Let's see here. Russ, you're in White Plains. Hello. Are you still there? Well, never mind then. Jason from Bergen County, New Jersey. Hello.
Hi, Greg. You're 100% right. What you said the past 15, 20 minutes now, I'm listening to you. I've been calling Kevin McCarthy's office and spoke to a couple of staffers, and I made them understand that Kevin has to be strong and don't give in to Biden administration, don't give them any more money, and make sure they close that border yesterday. And they told me, the staffer, they were on it and they were going to do something. But they were saying that it was in Kevin's hands to actually put it forward.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't think in the beginning Kevin could do what he should be doing, but we needed somebody there, so they picked him. And I went along with believing and trusting that he would do the right job.
I got it. Yeah, and you agree with me. Hey, I like how you work in the phones all the time. You're calling radio stations. You're calling the speaker's office. That's great. Remember, though, I think, Jason, in addition, you should write letters, okay? Because it's easy. You know what they do? I mean, they put you on mute, and then they talk about you, and then they just, yeah, tell us more, sir, And then they put you back on mute, and then you talk a little bit more, and then they're laughing at you, and then they, well, we'll get right on that, sir. We're going to do something, just like they told you. I really believe this. Once you put it pen and paper, especially with Congress, because they are old-fashioned, and just about every letter they get, they respond to, especially if it comes from their district, which is, you're not with. All right, I appreciate it, though, Jason. Everything else okay?
Can I mention one thing?
No, I got to go. Lewis in Florida, hello.
Yes, I think you're right about Kevin. I think they shouldn't have took him out. But it all bottoms down to is that these Democrats don't want to obey the Constitution. I mean, it says in the Constitution that they're supposed to protect us from invasion.
It damn well does.
Why are they allowing this?
I think that's an impeachable offense. You can look it up in the Constitution. It's one of the responsibilities of the executive branch to protect this nation from invasion. Lewis, great point. Joe up there in Middletown. Are you in Middletown, New York?
No, New Jersey.
Oh. All right, what's up?
Yeah, I guess you like to kick people when they're down, huh?
Kick people when they're down. Who?
The Speaker of the House who just lost his job.
Oh. Yeah, right. You know how many millions he's going to make? All right. You think I'm hurting his feelings right now? The whole damn country is slipping away right now, kicking him when he's down. These guys turn around. He will be making seven-figure. He probably is making all kinds of money. They have so many. You know how many chauffeurs he has?
No.
About 6. How many do you have? I mean, give me a break. Feeling sorry for this guy. Dude, he let us all down. All right? He did not have the smarts. He obviously didn't have the skill. You know, he calls up Nancy Mace, and actually, he doesn't talk to Nancy Mace. He talks to Nancy Mace's chief of staff. And what he says to the chief of staff is, when have I ever lied? Or what have I not done? It was like, what? Dude, read Lyndon Johnson's book. You got to go in and kick some ass. Nobody was afraid of him. Nobody respected him. That's what the problem is.
Been reported.
Excuse me?
How do you know that he did not kick ass, but it wasn't reported by the mainstream media?
No, forget the you know why? Because I'm listening to his words. Do I have this whole Nancy base? Keep listening. He goes on. Wait, is this it? No. Watch this press conference. I do have it. We do? All right, cut 28. Let's try that one.
I think you've got a real institutional problem. Interesting. It was in this room.
Stop that. Let's try cut 29.
You all know Matt Gaetz. You know it was personal. It had nothing to do about spending. It had nothing to do about everything he accused somebody of he was doing. It all was about getting attention from you. I mean, we're getting email fundraisers from him as he's doing it. Join in quickly. That's not governing. That's not becoming of a member of Congress. And regardless of what you think, I've seen the text. It was all about his ethics. But that's all right.
Yeah, apparently there's this whole backstory about Matt Gaetz. But, all right, that's not the Nancy Mace thing. But he says it out loud, man, all right? He says it out loud. He's working the phones, and he says he sees Nancy Mace on The View saying that McCarthy has lied to me. So he calls the chief of staff. When have I ever lied to you guys? He goes on like this. You heard what happened. I just played it for you with the whole Nancy Pelosi thing. Nancy Pelosi let me down. Joe, I think the mainstream media stinks as well. That's why I really don't consume it all that much. But I go right to the source. You can watch this press conference. Granted, it's going to take you 50 minutes, but it's all there. You can read these CRs and whatnot. Although they're 3,000 pages, it's a pain in the neck. I don't consume almost any mainstream media. I go to primary source documents. It's fascinating to see what the media says about what actually really happened. Usually they get it wildly wrong. But Joe, I think that's it's a wildly weird thing to say that I'm kicking McCarthy when he's down. I mean, come on. All right? He's a big boy. He's in politics. All right? This is not a fourth grader we're talking about.
All right, okay.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. Hey, Russ, you called back. What's the deal?
Thank you, Greg. The dog needed to go out. I couldn't wait. But did you see what Kevin said about prayer with Congressman Tim Burkett?
Yes, I couldn't quite understand what he was getting at. So the congressman said he prayed on this matter. And then he called him up, and what happened next? I couldn't tell if he was saying Burkett. I don't know. What happened?
Tweeted that he was going to pray on what to do about the vacate motion. Then McCarthy called him, and I believe McCarthy said, "Hey, Tim, I'm here to answer your prayers. You can have whatever you want." And that so offended Burkett that he said it was condescending that he decided then and there that McCarthy had to go.
Wow. Well, God does work in so many ways. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, it's actually a lot of fun going to these things and listening to them and really listening. And they tell you an awful lot. It's really kind of fascinating to do that. It's a great exercise. You know, it's a pain in the neck to listen to a 50-minute press conference. So most of us rely on the media to summarize it. And what do? They pick 2 sound bites. Usually the average sound bite is between 4 and 6 seconds long. Now, I like to play much longer sound bites to the point that they're not really sound bites. They're just big excerpts. I do that on lots of media platforms because you have to have the context. You can make anything sound any way you want if you play it short enough. And sometimes you can actually, if it's in keeping with everything else, you can run a short sound bite. But more importantly, before playing them, I listen to them. And, man, people say a lot. Now, sometimes if it's in a document, well, people can spin it. It's open to interpretation, as are words, but I think as are spoken words. Oops. But there's real value here. And I feel like I figured it out. I got to tell again, that guy, Halpern, man, he's smart. He predicted this, he predicted this last January, that the guy couldn't make it. He couldn't make it. So I'll get back to that. I mean, I never thought I'd be thinking or talking that much about the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I do have this, though. There are two guys who are officially running. Steve Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, I believe. And then there's Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio. I like both these guys. I actually have met Jim Jordan. And I like him more. I'd be pulling for him a bit more if he wants the job, and I guess he wants the job. Steve Scalise is a hero, though, too. I mean, that guy, remember, he was one of the guys who was shot at that baseball game in suburban Virginia that they never talk about anymore because a left-wing nut job who was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders came and tried to assassinate Republican lawmakers. And he was motivated by left-wing extremism. Who was his candidate? Who was his preferred candidate? A guy named Bernie Sanders. Ever hear of him? What's the name of the gunman? I don't know. This has just kind of been brushed aside, right? And it's all that white supremacy you got to worry about. Sure. Wasn't that genius of President Trump and that snake poem? I gave credit to the snake. You got to really give credit to Trump. He has used that story quite a bit. All right. Donald Trump is in that courtroom for the third day. Good for him. He's staring at the judge. He is, and the commentary on Truth Social. Every step of the way, they weren't counting on this. And he hasn't been issued a gag order. The judge ordered that he can't talk about anybody else in the courtroom who works for the judge. I didn't know the judge's clerk would be right there in court. You would think, aren't they supposed to be in chambers? Doesn't the clerk stay in the chamber? Whatever the chamber looks like. I never heard of a clerk being right there, but I guess this clerk, who used to work for Chuck Schumer, is right there. And Donald Trump, being the observant man that he is, hey, didn't I see you hanging around Chuck Schumer? What are you, his girlfriend? Ha, ha, ha. And everybody is so outraged. Oh, this is an attack, and her safety, and this and that. No, he's making fun of her and pointing out the huge conflict of interest. This judge is supposed to be neutral. This judge is not supposed to, and he's totally crazy. Looks like Bozo the Clown, talks like Bozo the Clown, hamming it up for the cameras, being weird, fooling around. I do not like that man. And this is still America. You're still allowed to say things like that, even about a judge. I have these people on MSNBC saying you're not supposed to talk about our judicial system and the rule of law. It could undermine confidence in the rule of law. How is it that you guys got to attack Trump 24/7 for his entire term, and that wasn't a threat to democracy, but making fun of this goofball judge is somehow a threat to democracy? And listen to this. Talk about a bad guy who shouldn't be there. This article goes all the way back to February 17th of 2022. Ready for this? In the Huffington Post. He's just a bad guy. Judge slams claim that Trump is unfairly singled out in AG probe. A Manhattan judge Thursday. Again, this is a year and a half ago. The judge who's sitting in judgment right now on the Trump case. A phony case. A Manhattan judge called Donald Trump just a bad guy in a scathing rebuke to a lawyer arguing that the former president was being unfairly singled out for investigation by New York Attorney General Letitia James. At the end of the hearing, State Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron ordered Trump, along with his daughter Ivanka and son Donald Trump Jr., to comply with subpoenas and testify under oath in a civil investigation launched by James into suspicious Trump Organization business practices. Attorney Alina Habba, superstar, by the way, and very beautiful, had argued that James was discriminating against Trump over his politics and that he was part of a protected class that should be legally safeguarded from her investigation. Habba argued that Trump was being discriminated against for his viewpoint. Trump has called the investigation by James, who is black, racist. That's them saying that she's black. And by the way, you can be racist and black. You can be racist and white. You can be racist and Asian. You can be though then again, what the hell does racist mean anything? What does it mean anymore? If everything is racist, nothing is racist. You know what I mean? They have overused that word. Being a racist, judging anybody by the color of their skin, not wanting to know anything about them, just making a snap judgment because of their race, orientation, faith, all that stuff, that's wrong. But when you take the sting out of it, you dilute its impact. Somebody told me the other day that ice cream is racist. You know why? Because it was enjoyed on the plantation and slaves made it. I mean, really, right? James has such a disdain for this person because he was president, because he is Donald Trump, and he could probably win again in 24, Habba argued during the hearing. He has First Amendment rights. He's allowed to be a Republican. Engoron responded, "There's no viewpoint discrimination. I'm just saying there is none." When Habba claimed Trump was part of a protected class, Engoron responded, what protected class is he a member of? His political speech, Habba replied, if he was not sitting as a Republican and was not a former president who might run again, this would not be happening. So she is discriminating against him for that. The judge and his clerk pointed out that protected classes include race, religion, and sex. Donald Trump doesn't fit that model, Engoron flatly declared. He's not being discriminated against based on race, is he? Or religion, is he? He's not a protected class, the judge added. If Miss James has a thing against him, okay, that's not in my understanding of unlawful discrimination. He's just a bad guy she should go after as the chief law enforcement officer of the state. Jesus. He said this out loud. Where's the New York Times? Where the hell are the libertarians? Where's the ACLU? This is wrong. After the contentious 2-hour hearing, Engoron wrote in his ruling that when a state attorney general begins investigating a business entity, uncovers copious evidence of possible financial fraud, and wants to question under oath several of the entity's principals, including its namesake, she has the right to do so. For James not to investigate, especially after Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, testified that the company was cooking the books, would have been a dereliction of duty, Engoron noted. The three Trumps have an absolute right to refuse to answer questions that they claim may incriminate them, he wrote. James is investigating, blah, 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 blah. How about that? So the whole damn thing is a joke. It is rigged. This man must be removed from the bench. But it's really happening. It's really happening in America. And he doesn't have anybody really sticking up for him. You can watch Fox News all day. They are so freaked out about Trump. They are so, every time he comes up, they panic. Oh, by the way, did you get that little prank phone call from a guy named Mark Dice? Mark Dice called Fox News, and it was pretty funny. I sent it in earlier. Let me find that. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, get ready for this. So there was a horrible shooting, and that's bad, at Morgan State University, right? And where is Morgan State? Is that in Maryland? Yeah? Okay. I hope nobody died. Did anybody die? One? Oh, shoot. Well, you know how they want people to, they want to talk to witnesses and stuff like that? And Mark Dice rationalizes it, and I don't necessarily disagree with him that sometimes TV stations try to exploit this stuff and keep it going and going and going, right? So he calls the station and he disguises his voice and says he's Tyrone from Morgan State University. But he he's not. And he makes a few points. Listen to this. This is live on Fox News last night. Cut 20.
And we've got Tyrone on the phone with us now. Tyrone, when you say poker game, what exactly happened? What transpired?
Well, first we all get together every Tuesday night, and we watch Tucker Carlson's show on X. We used to watch him on Fox News. Obviously, he's not there no more. Mm-hmm. And still being the most credible guy in the media in America, we always get together to watch Tucker Carlson. And I think he's doing probably better now that he's not with Fox News, because the corporate media always controls what the teleprompter readers are able to say. And now that he doesn't have that hand.
Thank you, Tyrone. Maybe we can work to get Don back on the phone. Tracy, we can get that. Clearly, that was not a student at Morgan State University.
That's good. Oh, that's good. That's almost as good as when, I think Sergeant Smith from the Air Force called MSNBC. By the way, nobody was killed at Morgan State. That's good. 5 injured. That's bad, but terrible. But he's making a point. And you know what? These people, these news organizations, they've got to do a better job vetting these people. You just can't pick up the phone and let anybody on. If you do, that's what's going to happen. If you do, you're going to get baba-booied. Baba-booey. 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 I love Gary Delabate. I love Howard Stern. I love the crew over there. But the baba-booey thing, I once baba-booied Baba-Booey. I did. It was really great. I snuck up behind him and totally. But anyway, what happened? Oh yeah, I think we should find this one. Somebody prank phone. The Russians shoot down a plane in Ukraine like in 10 years ago. I'm going to get it for you. Oh, it's so good. All right, give me a moment. I got to find this thing. It won't take long. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. Did your phone just go off and make a horribly obnoxious sound? I didn't like that. And the thing comes up. This is a warning. This is what the hell did they just do? They tested the emergency broadcast system. That used to be a relatively benign matter. It was no big deal. You'd see it on television. I liked it, actually, kind of old-timey. And my brother would have a debate about, it says, this is a test of the emergency broadcasting system. Please stand by. And then are we supposed to stand up? Well, it's stand by. But this one, and there are all kinds of rumors about it. I don't like the federal government doing that. I think it should be the state. There's something weird about them reaching into our phone. I don't know. I don't like it. But maybe it's okay. Okay, we have this prank phone call. Okay, so it's terrible. I mean, look, there are moments of tragedy, and people sometimes, you want to laugh, and you can't. If you took in all the tragedy all the time, you would be the most morose person in the world. You can't. We have defense mechanisms, and one of them is, quite frankly, humor. So they're trying to milk the hell out of a plane mishap in Ukraine. This is 2014. And a plane got shot down, probably by the Russians. It was an airliner. And you could argue this is insensitive, but I got to tell you, I laughed the hell. I mean, I still remember it 10 years later, all right? So listen to this. The anchor is a woman named Crystal Ball. That's her name, Crystal Ball. And she's on the MSNBC network, and it's live, and they want witnesses. So, all right, let's go.
Much, and let's turn now to an MSNBC exclusive. U.S. Staff Sergeant Michael Boyd is at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine and says that he saw a missile in the air hit the plane. He is on the phone with us. Sergeant, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Please tell us what you saw there on the ground in Ukraine.
Well, I was looking out the window and I saw a projectile flying through the sky, and it would appear that the plane was shot down by a blast of wind from Howard Stern's ass.
So it would appear that the plane was shot down. Can you tell us anything more from your military training of what sort of missile system that may have been coming from?
Well, you're a dumbass, aren't you?
I'm sorry, sir? All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with all the latest next.
Yeah, you think? Ooh, wow. I'm sorry. That is in the Rolls-Royce category of prank phone calls, huh? I love it. I'm sorry. I love it. I love it. Now, he didn't technically, that wasn't a Baba Booey, but he's definitely a Stern fan. I don't know if Stern told people to do that or they just did it on their own. And sometimes at a golf match, at the moment of truth, somebody will yell out Baba Booey. I love it. I totally love it. You can't prank phone call at people anymore. They don't pick up the phone. They don't pick up the phone if they don't recognize the number. They don't pick up the phone if it's blocked. So believe me, I've tried. I love a good prank phone call. You don't want to hurt anybody. You don't want to, but you can still have some fun, right? All right. There's the other thing that I was supposed to do. It's this thing on McCarthy. Sorry. One more thing. I'm getting sick of him myself. We won't have to deal with him for much longer. Well, he's gone. Oh, and he's all excited about the book he's going to write, right? But do me a favor, play the clip from 29 minutes to 31 minutes. Now, this is another thing. This is how he's a nasty, cheap politician in my book. Go ahead with the 29 to 31, please.
I called Nancy Mace's chief of staff yesterday. And because I called the chief of staff. Well, she was on The View saying I didn't keep my word, so I didn't know what to... Listen, I can't say this in the press, but okay. But so, no, you'll keep it among yourselves, right? Wait till my book. No. So I call her chief of staff because, I don't know, maybe I don't connect her with something else, but I just said to him, I said, can you please tell me, I don't understand, where have I not kept my word? You know what her chief of staff said? You have kept your word, 100%.
So he tells the story. Guess who doesn't want the story told? The chief of staff. And he laughs it off. Yeah, if he loses his job, I'll give him a job. That's what it's all about with these politicians. Hiring people, right? Friends, allies, donors, people you screwed over, maybe.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're not even going to talk about Eric Adams and his comings and goings. He's such a non-entity. He doesn't really count. I mean, if we had somebody doing something and actually knew how to do something, it would be one thing. But since he doesn't matter, and he's going on vacation now, a la Kamala Harris, to find the root causes of our immigration problem. One of the big root causes, well, is you, Ewick, because you invited all this crap and you antagonized the people who could have helped us to thwart it. Because you don't know what you're doing, because you are intellectually below average for such a big job. You were living in New Jersey, by the way, and you literally have done nothing with your life other than con people, especially a handful of Democrat voters on the last day of school in 2021 in a city of 8 million people. Clubhouse politician gets 200,000 votes. Ranked choice voting, presto changeo. He's the mayor of the greatest city, what was the greatest city in the world. It is a joke. And so are you. Hi, James Flippin.
Hey, Greg, what's going on? So I guess you're not convinced that Mayor Adams is going down to Mexico to try to convince migrants not to come here to New York.
I think he's got other things in mind when he travels internationally. Oh, yeah. Big time. So what else is going on?
Let's see. So, the UAW strike has stretched into day 20, and Governor Kathy Hochul joined the picket line today in Rockland County.
What?
She was alongside picketers up in, I can't remember what town it was, but up in Rockland County. She was joining the UAW picket line.
Oh. What about that little girl?
Oh, the one who was finally rescued up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild story. I mean, the guy that allegedly kidnapped her, I guess there is some speculation that he might have even tried to do this weeks ago, because there was a woman who said she was stopped dead in her tracks watching news reports saying, I remember a guy who approached my grandson in kind of the same fashion. They were in the backyard or something like that. This guy showed up and then she said, oh, maybe I can get my husband to help you. And then the guy took off.
This guy's got to have serious mental problems. I mean, he rang the doorbell to deliver the ransom note, right? I mean, this is not how you do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's definitely in some way, shape, or form mentally disturbed. I've heard that he had financial problems. You know, I don't know. You hear about a little girl getting taken like that, you kind of automatically assume the worst, but I don't know. Maybe this was just some desperate situation for the guy.
Fortunately, you don't hear about it as much because it is so, like, you know, they're so findable. There are cameras all over the place. You know, this is the one place I guess it could happen, in the woods. But you don't hear about these abductions anymore, although there is child trafficking. But you just don't hear about kids getting snatched off the street, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was a story out of South Jersey like 5 or 6 years ago where this woman, young girl, who I think may have been recently, she may have migrated to the country recently. And she disappeared from some park in South Jersey. They thought maybe her father was involved and he took her back to Mexico. I don't know whatever happened with that case. I don't think they ever found her. But yeah, generally speaking, you don't hear about them that often.
It does happen. I'm remembering the Libby Kletsky case. Remember that? The young Orthodox Jewish boy abducted. Yeah, and he was strangled to death. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible story. So it does happen, and it's horrible.
Eitan Pats, like years ago. I mean, that was back in like the 70s, right?
Eitan Pates, yeah. We solved that case. Pedro Hernandez, I think his name
the
is.
handyman or something like that?
He was he was working in the deli down the street.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right across from the school bus stop. And he confessed to a church group decades later that he did something bad in New York, and they called the cops, and they started investigating. And my dad, actually, I was really proud of this moment, because I remember when that kid went missing so vividly. And, you know, where the hell was he? Everybody was talking about it. And I think he might have been the first kid on a milk carton.
Yep, that's what they say.
And, you know, it was just like, it captivated the entire country. And it remained a mystery anyway. So my dad announced that they got the guy, Pedro Gonzalez, at a press conference in police headquarters. But he was just a lieutenant at the time, and we talked about it, you know, and we were just so. The Pates family. Do you remember the first jury was actually a hung jury? The evidence against this Hernandez guy was overwhelming, and it was actually a hung jury. One guy, one jerk. But they came back, and I think the Pates family is still, the guy's still in the photography business. All right, I'm sorry. I'm talking too much, James. What else?
Well, let's see. We also have a study out that says New Yorkers have the nation's worst commute times, 33 minutes on average. That's up from 31 minutes in 2021. New Jersey, the third worst commute time. That's per the U.S. Census Bureau. Any thoughts on that?
Those are kind of phony. Those stories are kind of
most of the time I agree with you, but when it comes from the U.S. Census Bureau, I'm like, all right. I mean, generally speaking, there should be some standard approach to this, right?
Have you ever filled out a census form?
I think I have, actually. I think I did this most recent census.
You probably show up for jury duty too. What? What kind of do-gooder citizen is this? You fill that thing out?
I have shown up for jury duty before, but never selected to serve on a jury before.
No, I'm only kidding. I show up for jury duty too, and yeah, they kicked me off right away. So this guy, it was a worker injury thing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
What do they call those? Personal injury? Anyway.
Liability.
He's suing his employer because he was using a machine at work and he lost his finger. And
nice.
It's called voir dire to see what the juror's going to say, right. And they put me up there and they kind of give me the basic facts. And the question I remember, she said, "Can you see any circumstance where this gentleman does not receive money?" And I said, "No." And they were like, the whole room, everybody like looked at me. And they repeated the question, wait, do you see any circumstance where this man does not receive money? I said, no, I do not. They're like, well, all right, what if we were to tell you that he violated this protocol, and the instruction handbook? Do you still say he deserves no money? I said, no, I do believe he deserves some money. And the guy just, why? Well, I said, because he showed up to work with 10 fingers and he went home with 9. That's on somebody.
That seemed
I
pretty
mean,
basic
that like
to you.
what I don't think if he took his hand and said, "Hey, watch this, everybody," but nobody said he did that, and he's suing. He's got to get some money. I hope he did. Maybe I just should have kept my mouth shut and get on the jury and try to hook him up.
Yeah, but you didn't see that as the honest and forthright way of handling that.
That's true. I would not have done that. You got to be truthful. Totally. I do remember also. Gosh, Rosanna Scotto. God bless her. I was taking pictures, not in the jury room, but like in the area where jurors wait.
Yeah, like the lobby, I guess. Or
Yes,
something like
she totally flipped out. She just totally, Greg's violating the law. Stop. And somehow it became a big deal. But anyway, love Rosanna. And I remember that. She probably doesn't remember that story, but I remember it. It's a long time ago. All right. Anything else?
Well, it's just interesting how there's two different trials kind of, taking place right now here in New York. The one is a fraud trial. It's for FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried. They're doing jury selection and opening arguments may get underway soon. Of course, there's also the civil fraud trial for former President Trump, but I'll leave it up to you to decide which one's getting more headlines.
The Sam Bankman-Fried thing seems to have faded away, but that guy seems pretty guilty to me. That's a genuine case. He ripped off a lot of people, but who knows? I mean, it's very complicated, that crypto stuff. James, you're the best.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Mike, you're standing by. I do want to get to you because you got something to say that's anti-me. Rockland County, Mike, hello.
Yeah, hi. How are you, Greg? Hey, Greg, how are you? No, it's not anti-you. It's just you can't go fighting amongst yourself when you have an issue in front of you. Ronald Reagan said it years ago, the 11th commandment, which declared, "Thou shalt not speak ill of Republicans." And you made a statement before about Nancy Pelosi, this and that. Of course, because they never step out of line, Greg. You got to see that. They are lockstep. And that's a problem with the country right now. We're in deep trouble in this country. And to have a fighting amongst people, we had an opportunity to do things in this house right now. And we're busy fighting amongst ourselves. Yeah, look.
Well, number one, let me just tell you, I got to jump in for a moment. All right. Ronald Reagan may have said that, but he never actually lived up to it. All right. You can go back and look it up. You know who he attacked like crazy? George H.W. Bush. All right. Those guys were in a bitter primary fight. All right. He was lighting up Republicans all over the place. This guy, Reagan, who I love. Okay. He also said horrible, vicious things about Gerald Ford in 1976, who was the incumbent president running to get elected. He was the vice president, then became the president, then was running for his own term. And guess who ran against an incumbent Republican president? Former Governor Ronald Reagan. He was lighting them up all over town. All right. I don't admire, like, the Democrats are in a weird place where it's party over country. I do believe they believe more in their party than in the country. I get what you're saying. You're not wrong. You're not. Although I do wonder what the hell they can actually get done if they only have a bare majority of the House of Representatives, not the Senate, not the White House. Then again, Nancy Pelosi was able to block a lot of things. I don't know. Mike, you're not wrong. It's just that this is where I've decided to come out on the issue. And
no, I got it. But I think, and listen, I kind of like Gates too. But you can't. There's too many issues, right? Even a minor thing. Look, I was a policeman in the city. I was a fireman in the city. I did 37 years. And just the minor fact of this clown pulling a fire alarm and all the wind goes out of that sail, that guy should be arrested. Meanwhile, he was a freaking principal in a middle school. Is that what they allow kids to do in a middle school? I don't think so. He should be arrested and thrown out. That, even though that's a minor issue, those type of things are where you should be punching. Don't punch down at yourself.
Well, wait a second. I mean, punching. I mean, look, I don't work there. All right. I'm not the Speaker of the House. I'm not even a Republican, to be honest. All right. I'm independent. I don't, I'm not affiliated with any party. And that's another thing, actually, I don't like about McCarthy. He complained about it, made noise about an ethics investigation. If I'm the Speaker, I would have found a way to revoke his damn building pass right away and ask questions later. I mean, that kind of stuff. And you go through this his parting farewell press conference, and you're like, damn, this guy's a weakling. And I think it has to be established for the record as we consider who the hell's coming next. And I can't just brush this under the rug. There are real problems with this guy. January 6th, I don't know, and I've got to talk to an expert. How much can they really get done when they barely control? Hey, and it's on McCarthy. It's on Kevin. It's on a lot of those institutional establishment Republicans. We should have won big. I say we, but our side. I'm not a Republican, but you know who I root for. We should have won big in 2022. We almost blew it. I mean, it's inconceivable how poorly we did given the situation at hand. They're still messing with the elections in my book. Hey, Mike, thank you very, very much. Great points. And we'll have to take a quick break let me just see here. The coast is clear. Other than, all right, Letitia James changed her strategy, okay? She was, the first day at trial, she was weirdly staring at the back of the head of Trump in court. How about that? She goes there all day long and doesn't say anything, but she can loaf in the courtroom. And she stares at the back of the head of Trump. And now I'm looking at footage. They obviously told her it's bad to stare at the back of his head. So she's staring straight ahead. She does exactly what she's told, whether it's her press person, or Joe Biden's people, because this was directed from Democrat Central. No doubt about it. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, look at this. Wow, they are mad at Matt Gaetz and they want to kick him out of the GOP conference. This is Congressman Mike Lawler, who's from our area, the Hudson Valley. I like him. He's very sharp. He's smart, incredibly articulate, and he's got a big future. He's not sufficiently MAGA for me, and he doesn't seem to be down with Trump all that much. Still, I can like him, and I like Matt Gaetz, but he wants to kick him out, and he's leading an effort to kick him out. You know, Lawler is another thing about him. He just got there a little while ago. He's a freshman, and he's doing the Sunday shows and stuff like that, so he's very, very bright. He's only in his 30s. Lawler, Lawler. He went to Manhattan College, oh, by the way, which is kind of cool, up there in the Bronx. What's up with Manhattan College in the Bronx, by the way? It was in Manhattan, and then they moved, but they moved like 100 years ago. Great school, great engineering department, and great people at Manhattan College. My dad went there, and my brother went there, actually, and a lot of other smart people I know, including the head of American Express, actually. Right now, that boss of American Express is a Manhattan College graduate. All right. I got to get my act together. I got big media responsibilities later, and it should be lots of fun as I hone my arguments and thoughts. I'm particularly impressed, as you know, with Mark Levin. He doesn't like this thing at all with McCarthy, but I'm okay with it. But I don't know. The people I respect disagree with me. Although there's some people I really respect too who are like, yeah, time for him to go. And doesn't make that much of a difference. And Trump is still going through this ordeal. It's fascinating that he's there and he doesn't have to be there, but he wants to be there. And he can call it out in real time. The judge. You think the judge knows anything about real estate? You think Letitia James knows anything about real estate? You think those two giggling fools, those prosecutors sitting at that table know anything? All right, let me go through this real quick. We have, where was that guy? Sorry about this. Chris in Sparta. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Chris.
We established
Hello?
that. Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm just calling to find out, like, this Matt Gaetz guy, he stood up for something that if Kevin McCarthy had held up to what he said, and I don't know if that was what was said, but at what point do these guys stand the line? Do they stand the line and do what's supposed to be right?
Well, everybody, I think, is doing what they think is right. You know?
Well, I'm just curious, like, when does it stop, or when is it I've had enough and I'm not going to take any more? And even though the Democrats, they are a tool, they will now get a new Speaker of the House that hopefully can unite the Republican Party.
Well,
and
if I became a congressman, I don't know if I'd like to be taking pointers and direction from anybody. I'm representing my district. Look, man, you're not wrong. I'm concerned too, but it's great talking to you. I got to keep going. We've got Rich in Pennsylvania somewhere. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, I agree with you, and I'll tell you why. The Democrats and their policies are cataclysmically stupid, and he should have put the Republicans should have put this whole shutdown threat on Biden, the White House, and the Democratic Party. What about this quadrillion-dollar national debt we're going to be leaving our grandchildren? What about the destruction, a complete breakdown of our national health and wealth done by the Democrats? And then these Democrats are juvenile delinquents. I mean, pulling a fire alarm, doing this conga line thing.
It all has to be stopped, and I'm glad you agree with me, Rich. Thank you. It really does. All right. Very quickly, Bobby D. Is that your name? Bobby D? Bobby D. What are you, a 50s icon? 50s Bobby D? Is that what they call you?
Bobby D, yeah.
Are you
I'm a 1960s leftover.
DJ.
1960s leftover.
The DJ. All right. What's up, Bobby?
Real quick. They're attacking Matt Gaetz. They're attacking him and the 8 Republicans, but we don't know what him and McCarthy disagreed about. And here's the thing. The American people voted for Republican candidates for term limits and secured borders. The Republicans got to start the negotiations with those 2 items unfaltering. This is what we want. Everything else can be negotiated, but the American people want us to secure borders and term limits.
All right, Bobby D. You know what? Surprisingly, I don't agree with you about term limits. Border, yes. Term limits, not exactly, because then the swamp wins, the unelected people in the swamp. Barbara in Huntington.
Hi, Greg. So a lot happened since I spoke to you yesterday, and it certainly is momentous. I feel much better hearing that Jim Jordan is wanting to be considered for Speaker of the House. That encourages me because I trust him and I understand him. And all these things with McCarthy, some I had seen, some I had not seen, but I think this is a good thing, and it is incredibly historic. And hopefully our people are paying attention to what we see in the Psalms that says, "Blessed are they who maintain justice, who constantly do what is right." And that's what we need. That's Psalm 106:3.
106.
And we see Trump doing that.
We
He's
do.
there in court.
I know.
Is right.
Every day. And Psalm 103. Thank you for that. And, of course, we have to finish with Sandra, one of our most loyal listeners. Yes, Sandra.
Well, I wanted to say I agree with you on your perceptions of Kevin McCarthy, and I'm thinking maybe that's why Matt Gaetz, acted out of a sense of urgency, because he's probably thinking, where are we going? We're going nowhere fast. And then last night, I thought I heard great news that maybe...
All right. Well, to be continued. I'll see you soon.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.